Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Today we're playing some RimWorld here. It's part of a little series that I'm recording. And it's a good game for Hanging with Mangg because I can just put it on like normal speed and just sit here and talk for an hour. Right. Yeah, so I've been into RimWorld recently. I recorded one playthrough and I'm on another one here. And really it's just like 4 or 5 videos each. But I was happy with the first one. It was only I think 4 videos, but I finished the playthrough. I launched a ship and everything, so I was happy. It had a conclusion. I have so many RimWorld videos that just don't end and I just abandon it. So it's nice to actually have a conclusion once in a while. Yeah. So this week on this channel, Doom the Dark Ages. Oh, yes. It's kind of been caught in the middle there where I'm still uploading because I just started uploading some solo role manging stuff and I didn't want to interrupt that at all, so there's been kind of a few uploads this week, but that should be wrapping up. And then we got Doom Dark Ages and Clair Obscur for a little while. From the sounds of it, I don't really expect Doom to be more than like 9 or 10 videos, so that won't be too bad. And Clair Obscur, we're already like halfway through uploading, I think, or more than halfway. So I don't know. I don't remember exactly. Maybe halfway. Yeah. So that's all that. And then the only other game that was maybe of interest was Elden Ring Night Rain, and that's still just a big question mark. It doesn't seem like the kind of game that I would record like a series of, because it's sort of a rogue light. So I would record maybe a run of it, but that's if I even buy the game. I don't know. We'll see. I probably will because it does have Elden Ring in the title, but I don't know. I mean, unless I hear a lot of reports saying that playing solo is very viable. It's a pretty iffy purchase for me. Yeah, so that's all that. Pretty good stuff. Not a whole lot to say. Yeah, okay. Over on the Exploring series, we had Flax. Did not captivate a lot of views, it seems, because the title is not very... It's certainly not as eye-catching as The Stillborn City. And the thumbnail, definitely not eye-catching. It's really, it's one of those kind of abstract SCPs, where it's... there's a lot of, like, cognito hazard, kind of info hazard related stuff going on. It's kind of hard to captivate people without resorting to some form of clickbait. Some SCPs are just a lot easier to grab people just as they are. This week I worked on The Unwell 7776. And it's a pretty lengthy one. It's like an hour and 15 minutes or something. It's about a really freaky well. To sum it up quickly, yes, that's what it's about. Yeah, it gets pretty wild, towards the the big sort of whole finale section. It's raining blood and there's just thousands of rats swarming and flamethrowers going and sacrifices and people spiraling into the air. Like, it gets pretty wild. I do think the article is a little overwritten. You know, I think it kind of repeats itself or repeats kind of the same ideas a few times. So I think if an editor were to come in, they could trim it down somewhat. And while I was writing, I had that thought. And it's like, isn't it sort of my job to summarize these things and cut out stuff? And I realized that I've gotten pretty squeamish about doing that over the years. Like, when I first started, I summarized a lot. And some of those videos I kind of want to go back to because they're too summarized. Like, I cut out too much stuff. And whereas now I cut out almost nothing. Like, certain sentences or something like that I might leave out entirely, or I might greatly summarize or something like that. But rarely do I just take like whole paragraphs and sum it up into a sentence. I don't even do that. And I think sometimes the videos would benefit from that, but I'm just iffy on it. Because it's like, I don't know, like, I'm not an editor. Like, I'm not really sure what should be in there or what shouldn't be in there. And I guess, I mean, that's just the risk you'd have to take if you want to make a more concise video, is just take the plunge and say, you know what, I don't think this paragraph is really that necessary, or really necessary to read out almost verbatim. And I should just be like, yeah, cut it. But alongside that, it's actually more work to do that. It's more work to cut things out than to just leave it in and just put it into the script. Because then it actually requires like brain power, you know, for me to really think critically about the article and what works and what doesn't. Whereas if I just throw it all into the script, I don't really have to think about that. It's just, yep, there it all is. The author put it in, I can put it in, done. No one can be really that upset with me for putting what was in the article into the video. They might redirect their anger towards the author, and they might call this article overwritten, but that's not really my fault. Well, simultaneously kind of being my fault because I made the video. So it's a little tricky. It's the path of least resistance, for sure, to not summarize. But it probably does hurt the videos. And I've seen comments from people, like, on Patreon stuff, for, like, the images. And to not... But don't worry about using images. I barely listen to the video, or I barely look at the video. I haven't looked at the video in years. I just listen. You know, I listen on Spotify, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, it would be a lot easier for me to just upload, like, a single image, you know, and a static image, and that's it. And that's the whole video, and it's just the audio, because a lot of people just listen to it anyways. But I'm not really in a position, viewership-wise, to make my videos worse, you know? The videos need to be kind of decent to try and attract new viewers. Because, I mean, the Volgan is still outperforming me, like, every step of the way. Like, his videos pretty much all clear 100K. And it's pretty hit or miss for me to get over 100K on an average video. And yeah, it's because he does better voice acting. You know, he has better, like, audio and audio effects than I do. Maybe people prefer just his style in general. He probably also for sure does better like SEO and like thumbnail design and all that sort of stuff. Like he's always been much more interested in that than I have. So that probably does help him. Because I refuse to put text on any of my videos. And the one video I did put text on the thumbnail was the 11-hour SCP to fall asleep to. And that's almost at 600k views now. So, yeah, it's just... Yeah. I did notice he hasn't uploaded... He uploads like once a month now or something. Like, he takes like these big hiatuses. He's not a consistent once a week. And I try very, very hard to be once every week. Even if it's an hour and 15-minute video. So, I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, I can't complain that much. It's still going fine. All things considered, but... Yeah, you know. SCP is not where it was 5 years ago. That's for damn sure. Anyways, let's talk about RPGs. I've got another session with some friends I'm DMing for tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. Planning on introducing them to Tales of Argosa, because that's currently my favorite system. I don't know what I'm going to run for them yet. I haven't decided. Some sort of level 1 dungeon. You know, it's like a 2.5 hour one-shot. There's not that many options available. I could run perhaps like a DCC funnel, but as level 1 Tales of Argosa characters. I did Sailors on the Starless Sea as a funnel for my family. And Lego is going to be playing tomorrow, so I can't do that again. Otherwise, I probably would. So, I don't know. Maybe some DCC funnel. Or, I don't know, maybe that Beakman adventure. That might be kind of fun. I did do that solo, and that was decent. It is kind of questionable, the start of that one, though, because it removes a lot of player agency. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, maybe a DCC funnel or something, or level 1 adventure. So that should be good. We'll talk about that next week. But I DM'd, of course, from my family this week, and it was kind of rough, to be honest. So they had just hired, they were in town, they had just hired 14 mercenaries, because they wanted some help in going to take out the bandits. No. They had taken out the bandits. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. Thinking about RimWorld. So they had taken out the bandits, they went back to town, they hired 14 mercenaries because they wanted a garrison at this camp. They wanted to make this like their new base of operations. So they wanted a garrison, and they were talking about maybe getting some other people to get there and maybe like start up their own town or eventually, you know, which is all very good. This is all everything an OSR DM wants to hear, right? So they marched back with their 14 mercenaries, you know, their squad that they hired. And they get to the bandit camp. And this is now like a month later, by the way. Because they had spent a month in town hiring all these mercenaries and training and stuff. So they go there and they find out that the bandit camp is now filled with zombies. 93 zombies, to be exact. And I was being kind, so I sort of explained some stuff that basically, like... Obviously, these zombies were mainly from the mines, and they were now moved here to prepare for the final stages of, like, an invasion of Ilmire. And I also explained to them that they're pretty aware now that they've upset the cult's activities in the region. And so now the assassin is going to be on them. And I was pretty blatant about telling them that, like, there's going to be an assassin after you. Because you really don't want, like, just... Okay, you go to bed that night and, oh, you die. The assassin crept into your room and slit your throat. I mean, some DMs probably do shit like that because it is realistic. But I think it's best if you give the players forewarning in some way. I'd prefer not to do it by just telling them that there's an assassin after them, but they had heard about the assassin previously, so I'm like, okay, your character is probably heavily suspect now that there's going to be the assassin coming after them. And I just want to put that in their mind so they're kind of thinking about it and they kind of plan. So it's not, they can't call bullshit when an assassin does creep into their room at night and try to kill them. Because they were warned. Their characters were aware. So they decide they can't take on zombies. I mean, initially they were like, let's just fight them. Let's just draw them out and we'll kite them and stuff. But it's like, no, not really. I was using axe monsters, and their zombies are as fast as humans. They do get a penalty to initiative, but their movement speed is as fast as a normal human. And they couldn't lure out just like a few or something, because once the camp is attacked, they'll make like a big concerted effort. That is the command they've been given by the necromancer. So I think they initially did want to attack, and I was like, okay, because they had their 14 mercenaries, and I'm like, okay, this is really borderline me wanting to use the mass combat rules. And I haven't gotten to upload these videos yet. I have so many fucking solo RPG videos to upload, I can't even tell you. So eventually I'll upload to a point where I did want to use mass combat rules for a situation pretty similar to this one, actually. And I went through and looked at a bunch of different options for mass combat, and, you know, some very rules heavy, some very rules light. And I ended up going with one that's just somebody put together on DriveThruRPG of just like a one roll mass combat, which was sort of inspired by some really, really old school rules from AD&D First Edition, or I don't even remember what the inspiration was. But yeah, there was some very old school rules that have been kind of updated for OSE for one roll mass combat. And I really like them, and so that's probably what I'm going to use in all future endeavors of mass combat. Unless players really want to dive into like Axe and use the proper Axe rules, which are definitely more significant, obviously. So I was like, this is pretty borderline me wanting to use the mass combat rules, because otherwise it's 93 zombies that I have to manage versus 14 mercenaries and like 4 player characters. And it would get really tricky for me to decide how to just run that as a normal combat. Especially because they didn't have any clever plan. They literally just wanted to like start shooting at them, you know, and just attack them. And it's like, okay, this seems like where we use mass combat rules. And I told them pretty much straight up, like, if I use mass combat rules, it's very bad for you guys, because there's only like 19 of you and there's 93 of them, and zombies are all 2-hit dice creatures. And player characters in the mass combat rules basically have to choose to contribute, and how they contribute is by waging their HP. So for every like D8 HP value that they wage, they add a certain amount of like army strength. But then at the end of the combat, they have to roll that number of D8s, and that's how much damage they take, which can definitely just kill them. So they at this level, they probably don't contribute a whole lot, because some of them only have like 10 health. So really, the numbers would, it would be very much not in their favor. Just off the top of my head, not counting the players, it would be like 15 versus an army strength of the zombies of like 186. And the army strength doesn't really matter for the one roll. The one roll is pretty much based on like sort of benefits or drawbacks of the actual battle. Like if one side is within a fortress and and they're being besieged, or if the one side has a lot more archers than the other, which in this case they do. The zombies have no ranged attacks whatsoever, so that is a factor. If one side is undead, and doesn't suffer any morale, that's another big factor. Which, yeah, I mean, overall it wouldn't be in their benefit no matter what for the one roll. And then after the one roll, then the actual numbers of the sides involved matter, because each side suffers casualties based on a percentage of the other side's numbers. So if one side is 100 and the other side is 500, and the losing side suffers 50%, that means they suffer 50% of 500. So they'd suffer 250 casualties, which would decimate them. Whereas if the 500 suffered 50% casualties, they'd only lose 50. So it's still, even though numbers do not impact the one roll almost at all, it's still obviously a massive factor. So I really like the one roll rules for that. So anyway, I explained to them that it wasn't going to be in their favor to do to do mass combat. And so they decided, like, okay, well, we need more men, but it's going to take another month to get more men, because we had already kind of gone over that. And I decided to make an exception, because I was like, okay, obviously the 14 men that they hired are just random guys, ex-soldiers, things like that, looking to make some money, and they're not connected in any way, and so they had to spend a month going around to all the taverns and trying to hire these guys. But I do want, like, mercenary guilds to exist, I think that it would make sense for... because you have groups of bandits out in the world, Why wouldn't you have groups of ex-soldiers that don't want to commit crimes and don't want to live out in a fucking hillside ruin, and robbing and kidnapping people? Like, surely there is room for mercenary guilds in a world like this. So I was like, okay, so if you go to a mercenary guild and you pay them enough up front and you hire enough soldiers up front, it's not going to take a month to organize. So I offered that as a possibility. They could hire enough soldiers, like a couple units worth, 240 plus. Then they wouldn't probably have to take a month. I also offered as an alternative they could go to like the local lord of Malorn and convince him of this threat, convince him of the zombies there, the cult activity, and all that sort of stuff, and try to get him to either send his soldiers or hire them out to you if you're willing to pay money. I wasn't quite sure how it would go when I suggested it, but something about appealing to the local lord. It's not really, I mean, it is sort of within his jurisdiction. He does kind of care if he believes them that it's a threat. And so they decided to go that route because it was a cheaper route, potentially. So they go to the Lord, they spend the day getting a meeting with him, and they plead their case, and they roll persuasion, and Lego gets like a great success or something like that. So I'm like, okay, he's willing, he wants to solve this problem for sure. But then I was like, well, what does he really need them for? What is he? He's not going to hire out. He's got his own sort of officers and things like that in his army. And I didn't want to do the whole axe route of figuring out exactly how many soldiers this guy is fielding. I was like, fuck it, you know, they don't care, so I'm not gonna bother too much. But yeah, I mean, he's got his own men and all that can lead, so he doesn't need the players to like lead the soldiers or anything. So they're just kind of like, okay, you've agreed to kind of step aside because you can't handle this. So all he really asked of them was that they guide the soldiers and point out where this camp is. And they agreed to do that. And I'm like, okay, they'll be ready to go in a couple days. So one of the nights they were staying in town, then I was like, okay, I gotta have the plague and 3 people. I gotta have the assassin attack one of these nights. And they've shown no precaution whatsoever, so okay, we're gonna do this. So I just rolled a d4 randomly to pick a person, and it fell on my aunt, so I had her roll a perception check while she was sleeping, which really should be done with disadvantage, but I'm being kind of generous. And so she happened to notice. She happened to just startle awake and see the door creak open to her room at the inn. And rather than shout for help, she decided to just jump up and fight this assassin. And I'm like, okay, you know, this will be not great for you. Because the assassin is like pretty much like a level 6 character with a +2 dagger that has poison on it, and if you fail your save, you die. So I'm okay, and I think she whiffed her first shot. My aunt whiffed her first shot, and then the assassin landed a second shot, and my aunt failed her con save and dropped dead. And then by that point, I guess everyone else ran into the room because they heard the sound of fighting, and I was like, okay, she had already jumped out the window. You know, she's too good. She's too good for that. And so Tales of Argosa, you know, if you go down, if you die, technically, after combat's over, other players roll your body over to see if you're still alive or not. So you don't technically die at 0 automatically. You just might be dead. You're just mostly dead. So they check her body, and she succeeds on her save, and so she's still alive. Still alive. I thought they would really learn a lesson from this, but they really didn't. And they decided, okay, we're just all gonna stay in the same room now. We're all in the same room. I'm like, okay. I mean, that'll prevent any attacks for now, I suppose. It's not what I would do, but sure. Oh, fucking tortured artist. She's already got her genetic pessimism. That's a permanent -13. Fucking hell. Alright, I gotta get you addicted to smoke leaf. That'll help out. Right. So, they all survive, you know, and they meet up with all the soldiers, and it ends up being like 720 soldiers or something like that. Because I was like, okay, I want to show them, like, this is what overwhelming force looks like. Because you want overwhelming force. You're against zombies. You don't want to just, like, fight man-to-man here. You want to overwhelm them with numbers. And so that's what he's saying. He's saying, like, 720. It was 6 units. So they lead all the soldiers out there to where the band encampment is, and I'm like, okay, I mean, you step aside, and they go to battle, they do it. And so I did the mass combat rules, and they wiped out every last zombie, and they suffered basically, I think it was like 100. They actually lost the battle, I believe. I mean, they lost the roll, which it wasn't ideal, but you imagine these guys don't have a lot of experience fighting zombies, so it was a little worrisome. Their morale maybe faltered a bit. So they suffered 123, I think, casualties, and about half of that is actual deaths. The other half is probably people just fleeing from the fact that they're fighting zombies that never back down. This is a predator? Are you serious? Yeah, we're not breaking through this thing. Down. Oh, shit. I'm gonna have to reload. Yeah, can't break through its armor. Okay, I didn't think that would... I thought it wasn't a predator. Anyways. Right, so, yeah, so they won the battle, and then they all went back home, and that was it. That was their job, so that was it. And, so then the players took over the bandit camp, now empty, and made it their home. They set up the garrison and everything. And they were relatively safe from the assassin inside of the encampment, because alright, we're just gonna stay. Although it can't leave, so I don't know what's gonna happen. They were relatively safe from the assassin inside the camp because there was a garrison. I mean, she probably could get in there, but honestly, she'd rather wait. You know, there's not much need for her to risk her life sneaking in there. As long as they're in there, they're not actively working against the cult, and they'll come out eventually, and she can wait. So they were safe inside there. I didn't tell them that or anything, but that's what I figured. Advanced starvation is not good. We have no wood. We definitely have wood. But what's... Oh, I don't have any coal. Right. This would be... This would make sense. Right, coal. Hold on. I'll continue in a moment. So they decided that now that the mines were kind of clear of zombies, because they just got all wiped out, they wanted to go there because they heard there's a fear spawn there, and this is like sort of the next place. They're continuing to look for... They're continuing to look for these sort of low-level opportunities, because now they understand that, like, this area, you know, that they've been in is sort of the low-level area that they were meant to do at, like, level 1, and they didn't do, and they went straight into the wilderness. So... So they wanted to go to the mines. They went to the mines. And they get to the mines. They fight some cultists off that are like throwing down. They're throwing down like captive people down into the mines because of the fear spawn. And there are still some zombies still in the mines. It wasn't completely wiped out. So they wipe out the cultists, they do some searching around, and we got into another argument with Lego because they went into one of the buildings above the mine, and Lego said... He said, to quote, let me quote him. He said, "I look around the room. Do I see anything?" That's specifically what he said. And I said, no, I mean, you see cupboards and things like that. Yeah, I described the room and what's in it, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, okay. And then they left the building, and I said, okay. And I've done this now several times to try to teach them a lesson. They never learn the lesson. What do you... Just eat fucking food. Just eat all the food. Please. You're in your 3rd trimester and you're about to die of starvation. Have you consume raw milk, really? At this rate? I want to finish my story. Right. So, okay, yeah. So he said, I look around the room, do I see anything? After he left, I said, okay, I have to do this again to you guys. It's getting pretty bad. It's now removed from existence, so they can't go back and get it. But I had to tell them that had they searched behind the cupboards in that building, they would have found like 400 gold or something like that, or something worth 400 gold. And Lego flew off the handle, and he said, I looked around the room, do I see anything? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you didn't. It was hidden behind a cupboard. And he started ranting and raving about semantics. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, this is a game. This is a conversational game. It's all about semantics. It's all about what you say. Like, I'm not... like, yeah. He's upset. Because he didn't use the word search. But, I mean, looking around the room is not the same as searching behind a cupboard. And I'm fairly lenient. Like, some DMs would be very strict about where you're searching. And if you said that you search under some rags and you didn't say you search behind the cupboards, then you don't get what's up behind the cupboards. Whereas other DMs would just say, okay, you say you search the whole room and you take time to search the room, then you would find anything that's in the room. That's more where I would lean. Because, yeah, I mean, it's mostly about just doing it and taking in-game time to do it. You know, whereas I feel if you just say, I look around the room, that means a very cursory glance, you're not spending any time in-game, and you just want to look and move on. I don't know why you would do that, but maybe if time is of the essence. In this case, it wasn't, and so Lego is just upset that they missed out on more treasure. And I told him he was dumb, and I told him that everyone else here was also dumb because no one, like, corrected him. No one else said, like, oh, I'm going to search the room. They all just nodded their heads. So, I think it was a good thing that he kind of ranted and raved about it, because hopefully that sort of sets it in everybody's minds now. But that only lasts for that session, really. I mean, next week, it's a whole new ball game. There's no telling what people will say or remember or do or whatever. Anyways, they went down into the mine. They fought some zombies. It wasn't really that big of a fight. They did end up getting a little bit more loot. And they, I'm skipping over at some other point where they got attacked by the assassin. They were hiking at some point, and they got attacked by the assassin. And I think, yeah, Lego was in the rear. So he got attacked by the assassin, stabbed him right in the back. I think he made his save, so he didn't die. But it was, you know, it was close. Yeah, this is what I wanted to avoid. Hoping to just starve this thing out. So they knew the assassin was still, like, on their trail every step of the way. And I knew that when they went into that mine, that the assassin was following them at some distance and was going to wait for them to get into, like, a fight down there in the dark, and she was going to jump out and start stabbing. So that was in my head. And I kept waiting for them to maybe, like, prepare some sort of ambush. They know the assassin's on their trail. Very, you know, hot and heavy. They never did. They just, pretty much, I would have imagined they just completely forgot the assassin existed. So they go down, and they end up at the bottom of the mine where the fear spawn is, and they get into the fight with the fear spawn, and they one-rounded the fear spawn. It didn't even get a chance to attack. I was pretty surprised. They all landed their shots, and they all landed their shots for quite a lot of damage. So it was pretty impressive. So it sort of ruined the assassin's plan, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to force the confrontation here. So at the end of that round, after the fear spawn dies, the assassin jumps out and starts attacking the mage. The magic user who is in the back still. And she doesn't kill him in one round. It's pretty close. But there's another round of combat. They all sort of get into position. They try to hit her, but she's she's like level 6 character. She's got a 17 AC. She's really tricky. And so my nephew decides to take that gauntlet that he got off of the other bandit leader that can cast a random spell once per day. And Lego was very much against him using it because he, you know, the first time they encountered this, it cast a firestorm in an enclosed area. So he's worried about what this thing is capable of. But my nephew really wants to do it, and so he uses it, and he casts a level 1 spell that's like... Basically, he casts grease. Literally, he casts the grease spell. So he coats the whole area on the floor in grease, forcing them all on the start of their turn to make like a dex save to avoid falling prone. And of course, her dex is monstrous because she's a level 6 assassin. So it's pretty good for her, but pretty bad for them. And Lego, again, just starts ranting and raving about how he fucked them all over and it's over now and blah, blah, blah. And that was like the end of their turn. So the following turn is like she's gonna have to teleport us out. Like our aunt, who has this unique feature of teleportation, is gonna have to teleport them all out of here. But the assassin got one more round and managed to drop my nephew's character. He succumbed to the poison. So then on their turn, my aunt, you know, had touched everybody, including my nephew's body, and teleported them all out of there back to the top of the mine. And they rolled over my nephew's body, and he failed. He failed his death saving throw. He got a reroll. He failed that. He got another reroll. He failed that, and he died. And he just swore and left. That was the end of the session, but yeah, it was not a great moment for him. In his defense, if I had that gauntlet and I was playing, I'd be using that thing every day. You know, I'm all about that. You accept the consequences, you know? But I also don't get that upset about a character dying. It's just like kind of a bummer and sort of being upset with myself rather than the game. Like, you know, he knew the consequences. He knew the risks of everything. And they were all dumb, very dumb. Like most of the session before they got to the mine was them like sort of thinking about the assassin and like trying to come up with a plan. And they wanted to like, God, there was like 20-minute section of them thinking about how to lay an ambush at camp at night when the assassin's going to come in. And they were like, oh, well, we'll have the artificer set up like some sort of trap with sleeping gas. And Lego was prepared basically for her to set up a sleeping gas trap that would put most of them to sleep as well. But as long as she goes down and one of them is up, they can just stab her to death. It's like, okay, it sounds like a pretty risky plan. I can't lie. But, you know, you do you. You do you. So, yeah, they just spent so long. And my mom really does not like when they just sit and talk. And like, discuss plans for a long period of time. She always wants to do something. And she always brings it up to me of, like, she, like, sympathizes with me, or she thinks that she's sympathizing with me about like, oh, it must be so awful for you to listen to all that and have to sit there, and you know, you can just tell them to move on and get. And I'm like, no, I don't really care. You know, that's what DMing is. Like, it doesn't, that part doesn't really bother me that much, to be honest. I mean, they're all dumb, sure, but it's I kind of just get to sit back and listen to their dumbness rather than when they're just in the plan making phase, like I don't have to engage in their dumbness. I just get to absorb it, so to speak. So she thinks she's sympathizing with me, but she's really not, because I don't mind. She minds a lot more. But that's what it is when you don't have like a leader that just says, hey, let's do this. Or you don't have any like really good players. It is what it is. Okay, let's really just make this happen, please. So, yeah. It was kind of a rough session all around for multiple reasons. And I talked with my mom afterwards, and I was like, I don't know if this group is really that cut out for like an OSR hex crawl, you know? They really just struggle to think and come up with anything, to be honest. They just struggle. I guess that dare left or something. I don't... Oh, he broke through. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, they just really struggle with a lot. I think they enjoy parts of it, but anytime they're forced with like a difficult situation that requires them to think rather than just like they enjoyed it for a while when they were just out in the wilderness and they had to hunt and stuff, and they were just like very basic stuff. But any sort of challenging situation, they immediately crumble, and it's kind of pointless without a challenging situation. They also really struggle going into dungeons, although I do think they're getting a little better about it, but they're... yeah, you know, we'll see. But it makes me tempted after this campaign's over to go back to just like 13th Age or something, where they're heroes and they fight stuff, and that's what they do. I definitely don't enjoy DMing it as much, but it is a lot simpler. Like, they can just go and do stuff, and they do stuff. I don't know, it's hard to say. I also think, like, Evils of Ilmire is really just easy to run. Like, I don't do any prep, ever. It's a slow campaign for sure, especially with these people, but it really just kind of runs itself. It's just a big open map, and they just go wherever they want, and I have dungeons for them to do, and I can improvise certain situations, but yeah, it's like no prep, and it's really easy to run. I highly recommend Evils of Ilmire if you're looking for this kind of open style campaign. Whereas 13th Age, I'm not quite sure what I would do. I don't know what a 13th Age campaign really looks like. I don't know how to run a campaign the way that my like old DM used to run campaigns. Because I don't want to think of plots or anything like that. Like, it's not how I like to really do stuff. I either can do dungeons that are pre-written, or I can do like an open sandbox thing. But I don't know how to run like a Matt Mercer style campaign that has like a plot line or something. Like, I can do it if it's pre-written, but that's not what my old DM did. He just had like, I mean, his were pretty freeform because I was a very freeform player, but he had like big plots sort of in mind and stuff. I'm just not that creative, I guess. So I don't know what I would do with 13th Age, but as a system, I think it's probably a better fit. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. So now my nephew has to go back to level 1, 0 XP, which he's very upset about. There's not that much difference between a level 1 character and a level 3 character, so it's not that huge of a deal. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, yeah. That's about all I got to say. Could have been better. Could have been a better session, but hopefully tomorrow will be pretty good. Back with some friends, playing Tales of Argosa, and they tend to be a little bit smarter, so that's good. But all right, my name is Mangg. Oh yeah, well, so Doom in the Dark Ages, Claire Obscure on this channel, and SCP-7776 on the Exploring series. Should be all good. But okay, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I'll see you fine folks next week.